Hey guys, Keira here. So today Tracey and I are going to look at the question, how do I begin figuring out what is the root cause of my eating disorder and how do I deal with that? And this came out of the feedback, so it is anonymous. So, I think it is really important to figure out what is kind of driving your eating disorder and the kind of feelings around it. But sometimes I wonder if it's quite so important to focus on the specific event itself. I'm not saying it's not important, but I wonder about, yeah, I don't want to say dwelling, but I can't think of a better word, on the past rather than trying to move forward. That being said, I do think it is important to find the root of your eating disorder, and I went about it in two ways. I started off focusing on specific eating disorder behaviours, so I'd find out what led to each individual binge or each individual purge or any other eating disorder behaviour that I have. And I do that through a chain analysis, usually with my therapist. And that involved doing a timeline of the specific behaviour. So, for example, if it was a binge, would go binge with the kind of end, what happened just before that, and then what happened just before that, and what happened just before that, and we kept going until, I guess, it became clear kind of what's led up to kind of the thoughts or feelings about the binge in this example. And also taking into consideration any kind of vulnerabilities that could be apparent. So if it was the exam blocks, or if there was financial stresses or other kind of things that made me vulnerable to negative emotions. And the more I did these, the more I could see a pattern of, I guess, not so much like individual events, but the emotions behind my binging, using the binge example. And I guess by keeping tabs on what emotion was popping up, it kind of gave me some hints about what was kind of the deeper cause of my eating disorder, why it came about, because I guess I could probably pinpoint like food and weight specific events, but there was a lot of other underlying emotions that made those events so, I guess, significant that I developed an eating disorder. So that leads me to part 2, which is the core issue. And I would recommend that if you are going to deal with these kind of deep or really painful issues, especially if there's trauma involved, then it would probably be best to do it with a professional or somewhat a support person, rather than kind of tackle this on your own, because these are obviously issues that have caused a lot of distress, and to rehash them is going to cause a lot of distress again, so it's best to have someone to support you through that time. I personally am starting to deal with my trauma issues with my psychiatrist, who, lucky for me, has I guess a specialised interest in trauma, eating disorders and borderline, so it's perfect. But even just having someone to guide you through the process, and there are a couple of ways you can kind of explore it, like possible core issues. Ones my therapist has recommended is just normal trauma therapy, hypnotherapy or narrative therapy, or EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization rememory, I think. And there are some ways that, I guess, with your therapist you can deal with probably more trauma issues, but I am also aware that not everyone with an eating disorder has a history of trauma, and that doesn't mean that your issues are any less significant or traumatic, I guess. And with those, I'd probably still recommend therapy, like talk therapy, or even narrative therapy, or art therapy to kind of get it out. And then once it's out, I guess to deal with it, and what I do is to focus on what emotions and thoughts have come from them, so feelings of kind of worthlessness and fear, or whatever the emotion is, rather than focusing just on the issue. And I guess once you've worked out what the emotions are, I guess you can slowly develop kind of new coping strategies specifically to them. And I guess even though I've kind of explained it in my little 10-minute video, my therapist has said I could be doing this for like 10-12 years. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, and it's not something you can rush. You have to kind of take baby steps and do it at a slow and reasonable pace. Yeah, that's me for this week, and I'll see you guys next week. See ya.